restaurant rant. All right, get ready with me while I talk about my manager that stole from all of us for about a year. So, my very first interaction with this GM was when I was hired. They hired another Courtney with the same exact initials as me at the exact same time. No big deal. Except he didn't pay attention to the fact that we were two separate people. So he put all of our information in the same folder. And when I was getting my schedule, it was really weird because I was supposed to be full-time with complete open availability, and I was only getting scheduled like one day a week. So I finally asked him about it, and he was like, well, you have the most insane scheduling conflicts I've ever seen, so I just didn't want to deal with it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's weird because I have complete open availability. And he went in and saw that he had done that. And when he saw that he was wrong, he got more mad at me for pointing it out. They also deposited her training check into my bank account because, again, just put everything together in one folder. I'm the one who came in and told them that I had her money, and they got mad at me. And she was like, thank you so much, because nobody was going to tell me that I wasn't getting my money. But whatever, that should have been so many red flags, but whatever, I was working there. Elf medium coverage because I'm just doing a little bit of filming today, so I just need like a nice cover. So he also was kind of just like a jerk for no reason. Like, he would fight with customers over silly stuff. Like, he wanted them to fight with him. He was the 5'7" manager with Napoleon Complex that I've talked about before in other videos. Also, his wife worked with us. She was a server. And like, you would come in and let's say you were assigned to section A. Section A was a really good section. Ichabod, they're just birds. You got to let it go. Okay. So you would come in and you would have section A, and it would be by the windows, and you'd be super excited because we had these massive windows that everybody wanted to sit by because it overlooked the water. Gorgeous. And then his wife would be in section D, and section D was not by any windows, and it was just not preferred. So even if you were trying to follow rotation, people would come in and be like, can we move to that section? So you were constantly getting sat and getting tables. So you'd be so excited because you had section A, and then you would go do your opening side work. You would come back and find out that his wife had now been moved to section A and you were in section D. And there's nothing you can do because he's the GM, and the other managers were like, what do you want us to do? He's the GM. So you just dealt with being in section D. So just overall, in general, just like a guy you didn't want to deal with. Like, he just never listened. He always yelled. It was just not fun to work there with him being there. But on his days off, I loved working there. So cut to Christmas Eve. We were one of the only places open, and we were like doing crazy good business because of being one of the only places open. And at the end of the night, the bartenders were all talking about like what they made and what our tip out was going to be. They're the tart, like double sculpting thingies. I actually really like these. They blend really nicely. So the way that we did our tip out, to explain it to you, is at the end of the night, the managers would write down all of our credit card tips on a piece of paper next to our name. And then they would write down how much you owed, like your bartender, your busser, your food runner, everything. It would just be like on a line on a piece of paper. And they would hand you all your money. And then they would add up how much you owed everybody, and you would pay them back. And they would put it in an envelope with your name on it. Like, Courtney's tip out X amount of dollars, and they would write like what was supposed to go to who. And then they would put all of those envelopes in the safe at the end of the night for the GM to go through, and he would separate it into individual envelopes for like busser A, busser B, busser C once he collected all the money and then pulled out everything and put it into the envelopes. So just to explain our system. So they did that estimate of what they thought they would each be making as bartenders on Christmas Eve, and it was supposed to be pretty high. Let's just say, because I don't remember, $150 a piece for their tip out from us. Well, they ended up getting it, and it was like $100. And one of my friends who was a bartender was like, this doesn't make sense. I know, I talked to everybody, I know what we made, like the numbers math isn't mathing. MCO Beauty to set some of this. So my friend did not like the GM. Like everyone kind of had a problem with him. So she went to one of the assistant managers and was like, hey, this math isn't mathing, X, Y, and Z. You were there, you remember. And that manager was like, I do remember. And yeah, something's not adding up here. So secretly, she started doing like a behind the scenes investigation on her own. And she started going through every day of the tip out. And the math was really not mathing. As we let this bake, so she starts going through every single day, and it's not big amounts. It's like $5 maybe from each envelope is just missing. So it's not enough that anyone was ever like, oh my gosh, there's a ton of money missing until Christmas. It was like $5, which I don't think anyone really like knew exactly. Like if you asked me what I tipped out last night, I cannot remember. So I don't think it was a big enough amount that like anyone was like super aware of it. But Christmas Eve, it was a big amount. And I think that's where he really messed up. So the assistant manager puts together this like little file and brings it to the district manager and was like, hey, this has been brought to my attention. I looked into it and they are right. This is not adding up. They get everything they need paper-wise together and they're like, hey, manager, we need you to come in and talk to us about this because the math isn't mathing, something's weird, and you're the only one with access to the safe. He's uber defensive. He's like, I can't believe you're accusing me of this. How could you do this? I'm about to go on vacation. I'm talking to you when I get back because I'm not going to deal with this right before we leave. Sounds great, except for the fact that A, as a manager, why would you not like defend yourself more? Why would you go on vacation with these accusations? And B, as they're in the computer, the assistant manager who like blew the whistle start seeing files disappearing, like ones that were pertaining to this, like all the numbers and everything that they had put together are just disappearing. And they figure out, obviously he still has codes and can get into the system. He's deleting all the evidence. So the owners and the district manager are like, pretty much that's all the evidence we need to know that this is all true. So they get in there, they change all his codes really quickly so he can no longer delete things. And my favorite part is he's getting on a plane with his family. We have an airport that's relatively close. It's like under an hour from us. They drive to the airport and stop him before he gets on the plane and get all his keys and his like all his access that he had to the restaurant. They get it all back right before he goes on the plane in front of everybody, which just is hilarious. It's actually in my showcase. I got it on TikTok. It's got these two little prongs on it and it's really fast for me to use when I'm in a hurry. So I love it. So long and the short of it is the owners of the restaurant that he was the GM at, not only do they own a bunch of restaurants in our area, but they have a really good reputation as being good owners and everything. So when he got back from his vacation, like nobody is willing to hire him. Also, as a side note, he really liked soccer and it was the World Cup that year. And he did that thing where you buy like a square for $10 and then you put all your money together and then whoever wins like the square gets like $500 or $1,000, whatever it was. He put all that money in an envelope in the safe and that was all gone too. So the owners actually came back in and gave the assistant manager just like a stack of $10 bills, and she went around and everybody that was in the drawing got their money back. So that was also really nice. Last I heard, he moved a couple states away and he is a GM at a restaurant there, but that was years ago, so I have no idea what he's doing now. But another interesting side story to kind of this that I was told by multiple servers when I was working there, he had a brother and his brother was like in trouble constantly with the law. He got in trouble a lot for like, he owed a lot of money for embezzling, money fraud, like he was going to jail, I'm pretty sure, but a lot of like money stuff. And one day he went out on his boat and he and the boat disappeared and was never seen again. So he had taken the boat out during a storm, and everyone was like speculating that, the boat collapsed, it sunk, it went, it crashed, whatever it did, and then he just didn't make it. So they sent out search, rescue, everything forever. Never found him, never found the boat. It was just assumed that unfortunately he and was gone. Look what I did. I'm so mad. I dropped my wand. So obviously his brother, my GM, is very upset. Again, this happened before I was there. I was just told this story. So he sets up a GoFundMe to raise money because he wants to do like a big plaque or a statue or a bet. Like he wants to do like a big thing for his brother. And he's telling everybody like, I want to build this big memorial to my brother. I want to put it by the water because that's where, he lost his life, and just like this whole big thing. So he raises like thousands and thousands of dollars on this GoFundMe, and then he ends up doing this, like, I was told it's like a 2 by 2 foot piece of cement that they just like etched the guy's name in. So didn't cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and everyone's kind of like, we donated to that. Where did this money go? And he's like, oh no, that thing was so expensive to make or whatever. But the theory, like the little conspiracy behind all of this is that his brother was in so much trouble with the law and all this money laundering and all this stuff going on behind the scenes that he was getting prosecuted for, or had been, that he didn't actually go under. He disappeared, like purposely, and he's somewhere and gone and whatever. So there's like another background conspiracy to this whole thing. But obviously, like, money issues run in this family, or at least in the brothers, because one of them disappeared and now he's gone and has never been found and could be on an island somewhere living like his best life, I guess. And the other one stole from a bunch of servers and bussers and everything, and now lives in another state, hopefully not doing the same to them. So, but he did this for like a year before he was caught. But it was, like I said, it was such small amounts, like it was $5 per server, a couple dollars, like we weren't noticing, because once I give you my money, I just assume everything's fine. And I don't know if the bussers actually knew how much tip out they were actually, I don't know how it worked, but it wasn't until Christmas when he took like big amounts from everybody, and maybe he just needed to spend more at Christmas and he needed more money. I don't know, but that's how he got caught.